Good morning, Year 7. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Today we're going to explore a poem called Timothy Winters. If possible, print out the poem and stick it in your books so you can annotate it along with me. Do now. Ears like bombs and teeth like splinters. I would like you to draw a picture of this face being described. Pause the video for 3 minutes to do this now. Okay, please could you write the date and the title, Timothy Winters by Charles Causley. Before we look at the poem together in detail, spend some time reading it on your own and trying to understand what it's about. You can use the glossary on this slide to help you. Pause the video for 5 minutes to do this now. Okay, what we're going to do now is go through each stanza of the poem, and after each stanza of the poem we're going to consider what it tells us about Timothy. Okay, so let's look at stanza 1. Timothy Winters comes to school with eyes as wide as a football pool, ears like bombs and teeth like splinters. A blitz of a boy is Timothy Winters. What does the stanza tell us about Timothy, and why has the poet chosen to use the metaphor, a blitz of a boy is Timothy Winters? Pause the video for a few minutes to jot down your ideas. So Timothy attends school. He has big eyes and big ears, and his teeth are in poor condition. There's use of imagery of an unattractive boy. It implies his presence causes danger and discomfort, just like the Blitz. It could also suggest his condition was caused by the Blitz, as the poem was set after World War II, just after World War II. So jot down notes from what's on the slide if you didn't get it already. So stanza 2. His belly is white, his neck is dark, and his hair is an exclamation mark. His clothes are enough to scare a crow, and through his breeches the blue winds blow. What does this tell us about Timothy, and why has the poet chosen to use the adjective blue? Pause the video to answer these questions. So his body is discoloured, possibly due to malnutrition, and his hair is messy and a cry to be noticed. His clothes are in frighteningly bad condition, which emphasises the severity of his condition and his situation. The adjective blue has connotations of coldness and sadness, an appropriate word choice for Timothy's sad situation. Stanza 3. When teacher talks, he won't hear a word, and he shoots down dead the arithmetic bird. He licks the pattern off his plate, and he's not even heard of the welfare state. What does this tell us about Timothy? Pause the video to jot down your ideas. It tells us that due to his extreme poverty, he is unable to concentrate in class. He is starving hungry due to his lack of food, and has not been given any help from the government, and is probably even unaware that help can be offered. Pause the video to jot down extra notes if you haven't got what's on the slide. Stanza 4. Timothy Winters has bloody feet, and he lives in a house on Suez Street. He sleeps in a sack on the kitchen floor, and they say there aren't boys like him anymore. What do we learn about Timothy, and who are they? Why is his personal pronoun used? Pause the video to answer these questions. So we learn he can't even afford basic necessities such as shoes. Suez Street is a war zone, and he doesn't even have a bed. They are the government who pretend that children in poverty don't exist. Old man Winters likes his beer, and his missus ran off with a bombardier. Grandma sits in the grate with a gin, and Timothy's dosed with an aspirin. What do we learn about Timothy? Where is alliteration used, and how is it effective? Pause the video to jot down your ideas in response to these questions. So we learn his father's a drunkard, he's a man who drinks too much, and his mother ran off with a corporal, that's a bombardier. His grandmother also has a drinking problem. It paints a picture of a dysfunctional family. Dysfunctional means abnormal, problematic. He has no support from anyone. Grandma sits in the grate with a gin is an example of alliteration. You've got repetition of the letter G, and it's used to paint a picture of a hopeless woman in a terrible situation. It could foreshadow, predict, what might happen to Timothy if he doesn't receive help. Again, pause the video to add what's on the slide to your own notes. Stanza 6. The welfare worker lies awake, but the law's as tricky as a 10-foot snake. So Timothy Winters drinks his cup and slowly goes on growing up. What do we learn about Timothy? What does the simile tell us about the law? Pause the video to answer these questions. Even though the social worker knows about Timothy's troubles and wants to help, they are unable to do so. This means that Timothy is forced to take what he gets. And the simile shows the law is difficult to manage and control. Again, make notes on what's on the slide, add to your own notes. Stanza 7. At morning prayers the Master helves for children less fortunate than ourselves, and the loudest response in the room is when Timothy Winters roars Amen. What does this stanza tell us about Timothy, and why does the poet use the verb roars? Pause the video to jot down your answers. So there's two interpretations. Timothy is very kind and wants to help children less fortunate than himself, and/or he wants people to notice that he is the less fortunate one and needs help. Roar shows the emotion he feels and his desire to be heard. Pause the video to jot down your response. And finally, stanza 8. So come one angel, come on 10. Timothy Winters says Amen. Amen, 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 Amen. Timothy Winters, Lord. Amen. What does this stanza tell the reader about Timothy? Why is Amen repeated? And is there a different meaning behind the final Amen? How might it change the whole poem? Pause the video to jot down your answers. So Timothy is in desperate need of help. That's why the poet is calling on 10 angels, repeated to emphasize the Amen, and the final Amen ends the poem and can potentially turn the whole poem into a prayer. Again, pause the video to add to your answers if you need to. Okay, so look back at your ideas and consider the poem's purpose. Why do you think this poem was written, and do you think Timothy Winters is just one boy? Pause the video for about 5 minutes to answer these questions. Okay, so the poem was written in the 1950s, a time when the government was trying to spread the message that suffering was a part of the past and the welfare state provided aid to all who needed it. The poet is trying to demonstrate how this isn't the case. Timothy Winters represents all the children who were living in poverty after World War II, but were ignored by the welfare state. Pause the video to add to what you've written down with what's on the slide. So children were supposed to live better lives and be protected in the 1950s, but the poem is telling the reader that this wasn't always the case. Analysing the poem. How does the writer present Timothy Winters? A blitz of a boy is Timothy Winters. The writer uses a metaphor in the line blitz of a boy to present Timothy Winters looking like a mess. The word blitz is connected with bombing in the war. It suggests to the reader that everything about Timothy is broken and a mess, like a bomb has exploded and he's been caught up in it. So as you've noticed, we've got a quotation, terminology, keyword from the question, one-word analysis, and impact on the reader. Now you have a go. How does the writer present Timothy Winters? Choose at least one quotation from the poem and analyse it. You can use my paragraph as a framework to support you. Make sure you include quotation, terminology, keyword from the question, one-word analysis, and the reader. If you have extra time, do this extension task for extra achievement points. Why has the poet written the poem as if it were a prayer? Use a quotation in your response. Pause the video for 15 minutes to do this now. Okay, so really well done, Year 7. I'm looking forward to reading your excellent work, and thank you very much.